Okay, we're back. We got our character animating with idle, so now we downloaded waving. We changed the rig to humanoid, which is what we need for humanoid characters. The clip is still called Mixamo, so we're going to go to animation. We're going to change our clip to wave, which is good. Hit apply. We're going to have a second state here. I'm going to delete this extra happy idle 0 state. We're going to add wave state to our FSM. How do we do that? It's just drag and drop, right? All right. So we can test this clip just by right-clicking on it and saying set as layer default state. It turns orange, so now we know that's the state that we're starting with. And if we press play, our character's going to wave, hello, and then stop, and then be done. Because when it's not a looping state, when you get to the end, you're finished. That's nice, but we want to start with idle, and we want to switch to wave on a key press, and when the wave is done, we want to switch back. So this is the first. We've got 2 states in our FSM now. We want to have a condition. So you're going to right-click on the state. You say make transition, and you're going to see when you're in make transition mode, the arrow kind of follows the mouse pointer, and you're going to click it. It snaps into any state. So now those are anchored, right? No matter where you place them, that transition occurs. Of course, we need to give our transition a condition. So we have conditions on our transitions. And that condition will be when a key is pressed, right? But up until this point, we don't have a way of communicating between script, which is where we can check if a key is pressed, and the FSM. The way we do that is with parameters. So parameters define the interface between the animator and code. So I'm going to go to the parameters tab here. I'm going to click plus. I'm going to say I'm going to add a new. And you've got 4 types of parameters: float, int, bool, and trigger. I'm going to say this is a trigger. So as soon as I fire it, that means the condition is true for 1 frame. Do the transition. It's the most basic one. Now we're going to say, we'll call this one wave. With the lowercase w. And you can tell the data type of a parameter by the shape of the icon here. You might get a circle or a checkbox or a radio button or something. I'm going to click on the transition. So I'm going to actually click on that blue line, and you'll see in the inspector it switches to this new type of visualization. And you can see the clips here. I've got two happy idles, and I've got wave down here. If you press play, you can preview what the transition will look like. Here he is, happy idling, and then he transitions down into wave. The duration of the transition is actually defined by these 2 blue arrows. Here and here. So that's the length of time that the transition will occur. There's 2 types of animation blends that we're going to use a lot in this course. And this is the first example of one of them. Basically, both clips are running at the same time. That's what this is showing you. You've got 2 tracks, and this is visualizing how the animation will blend from this one to this one while they're both going on concurrently. This is called a crossfade. You ever done crossfades in audio mixing? You have like 1 track and another track, and you want to go from one to the other. So that's what, over this amount of time, we're crossfading from happy idle to wave. And it will take that amount of time. So you can drag these arrows around to get a transition that looks nice for you. So there's 2 types of transitions. Crossfade is one, and that's where both clips run concurrently, and it goes from A to B over a certain amount of time. And if you want to edit it, you can scrub this line left and right, and you can see exactly how it works. So that's cool. So we can press play here. Now here we are in our game. If you want to preview that the transition actually works, you can click the trigger, and it actually does the transition, and then stops because we have no way to go back. So we went from state 1 to state 2, and then we were done. Wait a sec. Did I actually set this up? No, I didn't. Okay, so under conditions, right now it says list is empty. If you have a transition where conditions is empty, that means I'm going to do this transition when the animation is done. Okay, so with no conditions in there, if I just press play, you'll see a happy idle goes. When it gets to the end, flip, it plays it, and that's it. So it's not listening for anything. We want to listen for button press, so we're going to hit the plus sign, and under conditions, we're going to say we only have one parameter, so we're just going to say when the wave trigger is set. So now this is going to loop forever. So it loops forever until I actually set the condition, in which case it transitions to the next. Did you notice that it waits for a certain amount of time? If I press this condition right away, it doesn't actually fire until a little bit later. Why is that? If you look at the transition, you see that this says we're going to play the animation until we get to this amount of time in the first clip, and when we hit there, if the condition is true, we're going to evaluate it, we're going to do the transition. So it only ever fires at like 90% through the clip. That's where the condition is checked. This happens if has exit time is set to true. So if has exit time is set to true, it actually looks for the literal time in the clip where the transition was designed to be. If you want the animation to happen at any time that condition is true, you turn that off. And now it's going to check that condition all the time. And as soon as I click it, it's going to do the transition. So that way you can have a more responsive animation. If you want the guy to punch, as soon as you hit the punch button, you probably want has exit time to be false. If you want him to jump, as soon as you press the jump button, you probably want has exit time to be false. Make sense? That being said, how do we now go back from wave to idle? What kind of transition do we want? Yeah, so we'll make transition, we'll go back here. What's the condition?
When done, yes.
And how do we encode that?
You just make sure that there's no loop on it.
We just make sure there's nothing. So the condition will be empty and has exit time is true. So in that situation, it's going to play the clip, and then when the clip is done, and it reaches exit time, it's going to go back. So let's try it. There he is idling. There he is waving. And we loop back again. Okay, everybody got a single anim that connected on a parameter?
Sorry, I didn't get how to add a trigger.
So on the animator tab, under parameters, click the plus sign. And then you see it says float, int, bool, or trigger. You pick the type. And then under type, you can say, I don't know, I'll call this one health and it's int, but whatever. We made a trigger that was called wave. Your parameters can be called anything. Okay?